Welcome to tonight's HBCU Monday edition of the Klown podcast. I'm Scott Burks. Please check me on my blog, at www.theclowntimes.net. I haven't updated it in a while because I've been busy with life stuff. But I'm going to get back on it this week. Maybe talk about a little what we're going to talk about tonight on the blog. So anyway, check me out there. Also, speaking of which, get the merch at cafepress.com. Search for the Klown Time Sports. You find hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, mouse pads, you name it. So anyway, just check it out there. And also, speaking of the Klown Times, you can find me on Facebook at the same title. So whether you're on your smartphone, laptop, desktop, wherever you are, wherever you may be, just type in the Klown Times. You're able to find me there as well. And last, definitely not least, please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Whether you disagree or agree or whatever, right, wrong, or indifferent, I have a funny feeling we're going to get a lot of disagreeable or agreeable comments. We had some on our video, on our podcast the last couple of weeks. Well, especially last week, like regarding the subject matter, we'll continue on from last week's discussion. So anyway, whether you agree or disagree, right, wrong, and indifferent, you're going to be glad you did when you subscribe to the channel, and I'll be glad. All right, and on all my guests will be glad because that gives them exposure, and you can interact with them as well. So yeah. So anyways, since we're continuing this discussion, let's bring back my homie, my HBCU homie. Y'all know him from the yards. That's HBCU Sports, who reps about all things HBCU Sports. So we're Sleazy Radio every Tuesday night on Facebook Live and YouTube. And last but not least, check out his great work on HeroSports.com, who writes about all things FCS athletics as they pertain to HBCU sports. This should be a very fun podcast tonight, but here he is, Dwayne Nash is back in the house. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing, Scott. I'm doing good, Scott. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Had some ordering out food drama. Just know this. Whenever you see an automated menu at a fast food restaurant in the middle of the hood, run. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, I'm still alive, man. I'm doing okay, and it is what it is with the food drama. So, word to the wise. Aside from that, no, the negative wisdom. It pays to grocery shop and cook your own stuff. So there you go. It's much healthier too, and cheaper in the long run. Okay, all right. Continuing last week's discussion on Coach Prime, aka Deion Sanders, leaving Jackson State University for the much greener pastures of the University of Colorado. We all know that Colorado is pretty much like ground zero because they went 1-11 last year. They hadn't been to a bowl game. Well, they hadn't had a winning season since the early 2000s. I forgot which year exactly.
No, they've had some since. The thing is, though, because I was just looking at this number today because someone brought it up to me.
Okay.
Well, they questioned, and I had to do some quick research. I think the last time they had a winning record was 2015, if I'm correct.
Gotcha.
But
okay. That's fair.
They've had 10 wins. Well, since the turn of the century, they've only had 10 wins or more 3 times. They've had 500 or better records a total of 6 times since the turn of the century. So just like Jackson State, this is most definitely going to be a reclamation project for Coach Prime and the assistants and the players that he'll be bringing in to Boulder.
Yeah, and so by the way, folks, the turn of the century in this context is 2000.
Yes,
that's what I meant by that. Not 1900. So we were not going to have you. Actually, no, since 2000. Okay, that's where we're going at. Okay.
Yes, please.
Well, I think most of you knew that already, but just in case, I want to point that out.
Just
in case, you never know who's out there.
We're in the 21st century now, player.
Yeah. But yeah, let's just, man, because we talked about the fallout last week of Coach Prime leaving. Now, there's been several other pundits, many of whom we respect a lot, who gave their opinions on the exit. Like Jamel Hill, which I really respect a whole dear. She wrote a piece in The Atlantic called Deion Sanders' Disappointing Exit. very much the tagline is the former NFL star got a great new coaching job. But what happens to schools like Jackson State? So that's a pretty good read. You have this article on CNN.com by, let's get his name right quick. I'm at the bottom. So I was reading earlier. Amir Vera, basically saying that the title of this article was Deion Sanders has decided to stop coaching at a historically Black college. Here's why people are so upset. And I want to start right there, right?
Okay.
Because the thing is that you got so many people calling him a sellout for leaving JSU for the University of Colorado. You got cats like me who like protagonists and capitalists that said, look, if you got an opportunity to grow your brand and make more money and be more successful and to get the resources to be more successful, I say take it. That's like a lottery ticket sitting in your hand. Why sit on it? But I understand either side because really it's not really cut like a white. This is very nuanced.
It's very nuanced.
It's very nuanced because both sides are right. There's no fault for either side, to be honest with you. Like I know that Bomani Jones, he was on was it First Take, and basically like debating I almost called Deion Sanders. Stephen A. Smith, yeah, HBCU alum, like saying that here's a quote from actually Bomani Jones talking to on CNN to Don Lemon earlier this week. This is a quote: "You weren't going to bring this attention to all these other schools in the period, the time period he was there. If he was really going to accomplish that, that is like a 10-year program, at least." So basically, if you go on to listen to the rest of the interview and then see his appearance on a First Take with Stephen A. Smith, is going back for Stephen A. Smith. But Monty didn't have a problem with him with Coach Prime leaving per se. It's just that it was like he's so like it didn't fulfill the promise. Like Deion came in, all this fanfare promising to shed light to HBCUs and do all that stuff, which he was on his way to do. But it's like we wanted to see the ride continue just a little bit longer because, I mean, he's brought all these eyes, and I'm going to touch on just a little bit right now, just a little bit, not a whole lot, but the exposure. I mean, for one, he had Jackson State being talked about on shows like First Take and Undisputed with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. He was on not All the Smoke podcast, but what's the other one? I Am Athlete podcast. When just shortly after he was hired at Jackson State, extolling the virtues of what he was going to do of Jackson State, what he was going to do there. And also, he brought a lot of exposure, helped bring a lot of exposure. Not to say that the exposure came with him, but he helped bring more of it. Like from ESPN, there's some talk about, and we could debate this about the amount of millions of dollars over a certain amount of years. We'll get into that in a moment. Like in Plus College Game Day came to Jackson State. You had like Pat McAfee. Yes, that Pat McAfee from his own podcast. To say he's very successful is a huge understatement. Talking about like doing like vlogs and going live from like the step shows and the parties at Jackson State, talking about how much he loved the culture there and interacting with the crowd. I mean, to me, that does not come without Coach Prime. So Coach Prime is on his way to bringing that exposure. It's just that we didn't want the ride to end so soon, even though we and you both knew, and many others probably knew that Coach Prime was going to be there for the long haul. So I can go into more stuff in a minute, but let me just get your thoughts on this because it seems like I don't want to say people are in their feelings necessarily, but this departure going from one school from an FCS program that has to be an HBCU to a Power 5, this appears to hurt and affect a lot of Black folks on so many levels. It's not necessarily quantifiable. So let me just get your thoughts on that right quick.
Yes, Scott. It's kind of scary, and it's not to say that I'm disagreeable with the man. We've had one skirmish that we've most definitely talked about on the show before, but when Bomani Jones and I agree, it's dangerous. But the thing is, he said on CNN something extremely similar to what I said on the show last week, was that the emotional ties that were made with his announcement of being hired at Jackson State, along with, you talk about the interview with I Am Athlete, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a promise kind of made there, right? And based upon how you take those comments in terms of what he was talking about with Channing Crowder and
especially that guy, Channing Crowder,
with Channing Crowder and what's your boy's name? I see his face, because this is when Crowder, Fred Taylor, and all of them were together. Because this was the early years of I Am Athlete.
Yeah, right. With Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, and Brandon Marshall and those guys, where he basically talked about, he's coming through with this mission of changing creating an impact with all HBCU athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept telling people I had never heard him use the term savior, and that he was coming through to save HBCUs in that terminology.
Mm-hmm.
But damn near, that wasn't the closest you're going to get from the interview.
Oh, sure. You're not getting debate on that one for me. For sure.
Yeah. And when you say that type of stuff, and then like I said last week, and I'm do the condensed version again, when you come through with the I believe mantra,
right,
along with savior, and saying that God brought you here, this was ordained by God.
He did say that part about God led him to,
when you do all of that with a culture that is rooted in Christianity, you're not even just tugging at emotion there. You're tugging at religious emotion that is deeply embedded in us, and you get that combination along with the winning that came along with it, and then like you said, that euphoria that you have, and oh my God, the attention and the exposure that comes with this, with everywhere that they had been. Good Morning America, the first time that ESPN College Game Day shows up on the HBCU campus since 2008, when they appeared at Florida A&M, to all of the other podcasts and shows that Coach Sanders has made appearances on, to the SWAC commercial. Everywhere you went, you saw his face, right?
Under Armour hooked them up big time.
You know what I'm saying? Pepsi, American Airlines.
Yeah.
Even one of the debates that I had about a month or two ago with a Jackson State fan who came to me and said, dude, I don't even know who your coach at North Carolina A&T is. First and foremost, I didn't even bring up A&T. He did. So you know how I get when someone provokes me with North Carolina A&T. So the thing is, it's about the exposure, about being known. Hopefully with the change, you had Travis Hunter come through. You had Shador come through. You had the big-time transfers from SEC schools and Power 5 programs.
As a recruit coming through.
Most definitely, right? That were all coming through to Jackson State and leading them on this remarkable 25-6 record during his time there. One, most definitely, you don't want this to end. And two, there were a lot of people wanting to see the dividends pay out for all HBCUs. And even during that, right, I kept telling people, I understand that's what he said, but his job first and foremost is with Jackson State and to turn that program around. Now, if all the eyes come on to everyone else because of it, so be it. But that is technically not his job to save HBCUs, and it's damn near impossible to do so. I'm not going to agree with Bomani and say it's going to take 10, but 10, it should be done in 10 years. I'll say that. Something should have been done in 10 years. And a lot of the things that he talked about and laminated about that could be done probably could have been approached and touched upon had he stayed a couple of more years. But that huge thing, Scott, that a lot of people hung their hats on is that you don't have to go to Power 5 and PWIs to get exposure, to get seen, play good football, and make it to the league. You can come to an HBCU. You can come to Jackson State. And to say all of that, and to say that God led you here, and then for 804 days later say that God led you to Boulder, Colorado,
right?
I'm not going to question a man's walk with God. I'm not going to do that.
Sure. Not with most people, hopefully.
Sounds a little janky, though, that God told you to go here and 2 years later go here. But again, that's not my walk. That's his walk, right? Mm-hmm. Because there had to have been something that went on at Jackson State that made him say, or that made God say, you know what? Maybe it is time for you to move on. A little too early for my taste, and a lot more for other people's taste. But it was not unexpected by me, not at all. And to say that, well, from my perspective, that what am I supposed to do? And that was the biggest thing. What is this man supposed to do? He's getting at least 10 times the money that he was getting at Jackson State. This is coming from the same guy who said in the I Am Athlete podcast, this is not about the money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is the same dude who came out of his pocket to take care of things. Again, I'm not counting a man's pockets either, but he came out of his pocket to take care of things on campus for the student athletes, for the football team, that he probably shouldn't have had to do so. But
we'll get to that in a moment. Yeah.
Yeah, but he did, right?
Yeah.
So when people kept saying he spent this money, he's getting more money, but this wasn't supposed to be about the money.
Right.
But I don't begrudge him for getting the money either. Like we've said before, Scott, and we've talked about this in other circles too. The amount of Black coaches that get jobs in college football as a whole, especially on the FCS level. I'm sorry, on the FBS level.
BS level, yeah.
It's minuscule. And we talked about this last week too. The amount of guys that come from HBCUs as a head coach that go on to an FBS program and become a head coach there is now a one-on-one. And we've already talked about how unique Deion Sanders is.
Correct.
And that's why he is that one.
The ultimate unicorn. The ultimate unicorn.
The ultimate unicorn.
Yeah.
So yeah, I as people probably, like I said last week, people probably would have assumed that I would have called him a sellout for leaving. No, not at all. I knew it was coming.
Right.
I didn't think it was going to be Colorado, though. You know, I really thought, and there was a lot of people that thought that Colorado was above him. Maybe he did not. But I will say this, based upon what I've seen so far, it is most definitely the place where he should be, because not a lot of Power 5 programs are going to let Prime be Prime and the AD stay out of the way.
You got that right. You got that right. Especially at places where it's rumored to be, such as Auburn, University of Cincinnati, right here in town, and a few other places. A lot of those ADs at those big football programs, they want, even in the boosters too. We count up. We not had factor in the boosters and the power brokers. They definitely want to let him be him. But it's going to be interesting to see how he does at Colorado State, and if people willing to bet on him, like those who willing to bet on other sports, like you can do on BetUs.com. So this is a quick shout out to our sponsors for today's podcast. So listen up, sports bettors. Your favorite sports book, BetUs.com, is back for our 20th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest seller bonus up to 200%, BetUs offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, UFC, and MLB. And if you're looking for live in-game betting, incredible odds with daily odds, boosters, props, and parlays, we got it. And how about fast payouts and exceptional one-on-one customer service? We got that too. So log into BetUs.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BET-US. You can use the promo code TKT for the Klown Times as well. BetUs.com, where the game begins. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, man, because it's going to be a hell of an experiment, right? it's like, we all agree that he's a unicorn, that he's probably going to be blazing some trails, right? To see a coach, a black coach, coming from an HBCU program, many of whom are on the FCS level, to go not only to an FBS program, but to a Power 5 at that. I never thought I'd ever see that. You know what I mean? And we talked about that, the number of coaches, period, that came from HBCUs to do the FBS and at the Power 5. We said the number was 2.
Yeah.
The other guy,
well, not Power 5, but just to the FBS level as a whole.
Period. Yeah. So that was 2. The other guy was a white dude who coached at
Jay Hobson. Yeah, Jay Hobson, who used to be the head coach at Alcorn State.
Okay.
He was the head coach with that first Alcorn team that went to the Celebration Bowl that would eventually lose to North Carolina A&T, and Tariq Cohen, who is, oddly enough, will be inducted into the Celebration Bowl Hall of Fame as a player, the first to be done so, coming up this week.
Nice. That's awesome. So basically, man, people are gonna be talking about Coach Prime and his impact leading for the Power 5 from now to Kingdom Come, seem like, especially at the start of next year. But I'll say this. Like I said, I'm the ultimate pragmatist. I knew this day was going to come. I knew someone was going to come calling him from a Power 5. I thought it was going to be Florida State, especially if Mike Norvell, the current coach of Florida State, did not have a good year. I thought he was going to be called home, Dion. But I, as much of a pragmatist as I am, as much as I realize that it is about dollars and cents at the end of the day, in terms of not only his salary, but the staff and the resources that will help him win. Now, I would argue, one who could argue that he was pretty much doing that at Jackson State. He turned to a powerhouse in 2.5 years.
Yeah. Technically, Scott, in what, January to boom, 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 in 8 months to be exact. Because he took the job January 1 of 2021. He coached that spring. Okay, they went technically 4-4. I still say 4-3. They technically went 3-3. I'm not counting that forfeit that Alcorn had to give up because they chose not to play during COVID, but I digress. That following August, September is when they went on that 11-2 run. And then, of course, this past season when they're currently 12-0. Yeah. So, he turned that program around very quickly.
And I would have loved to have him to stick around to be the ultimate disruptor to the Power 5, to the college football structure as we know it, especially the Power 5, because to your point, he was pulling in, we all saw it, he was pulling in recruits, he was pulling the top players through the transfer portal. And he was very transparent about it. He always would say, I ain't hard to find. He always would say that. I ain't hard to find. Say appearing on Aflac commercials with the great Nick Saban from Alabama. 2 GOATs. I mean, and we already talked about the sponsorship impact, and we're going to get the monetary impact shortly. But in the short period of time he was there, he did a lot.
He did. He did a lot. But God, Scott, there was so much more to do, especially based upon what he claimed he wanted to do. Right. The biggest thing before I even get to another emotional tie that people have and why they're upset. I truly feel as though that a lot of the things that he's capable of doing, and people are wishing, and I'm saying wishing because that's exactly what it is, that the next head coach at Jackson State will just come in and just take over where Dion left off. And we've already discussed that he is a unicorn. He's a 101, and no one will be capable of doing a lot of the things that he did. I really wish that he could have. I'm not saying fully yet. I would love to find out this week from Coach McClellan and from Ashley Robinson, what are the things that they learned from Dion that they can go ahead and carry over to hopefully boost what it is, boost revenue, not only for the conference, but for the member institutions as well. And hopefully for other HBCUs to learn from it too. And the main thing is, and one of the things that he most definitely he's known for is his ability to garner sponsorships. I just want to know whether or not these leaders, the leaderships in HBCU athletics, was capable of learning from Prime how to do so and to sustainably do so and have them believe in HBCU product without Coach Sanders being there. Because it feels to me that the way that a lot of these sponsors will be fully invested in HBCU athletics is if there is an entity there that they're extremely comfortable with, which I completely understand. But God, you have to understand as well that this is a product that garners eyes and viewership that you can most definitely benefit from. And of course, HBCUs will greatly benefit from sponsorship deals as well.
And let's talk about, we're talking about the monetary impacts and everything. Let's talk about right now. I don't know if these numbers are true. So let me just put that out there. But we can debate, you're close to this than I am, which is one of these many reasons why I like to have you on the show. So let's talk about the economic impact, Prime's time, and no pun intended, and Jackson. He bought $30 million to the city of Jackson, Mississippi.
That's quite possibly true.
$9 million to this past year's homecoming. $4 million for the Boombox Classic. Excuse me. We already know about recruiting, the number one recruiting class in HBCU history. Signed the first 5-star recruit to an HBCU in HBCU history. At most number of quality prospects to commit to HBCUs in history in 2021. He put HBCUs on the map nationally. Yeah. Okay, let's stop there. Okay. Let's focus there for me. So, yes, people have been knowing about HBCUs. Obviously, the Celebration Bowl was long before Prime came along. We know that, but have we experienced the national?
I think I know where you're going with this, Scott.
And the national level of interest in HBCUs for the past like 2 years and change that Prime has been there. Have we experienced that before?
No, we have not. Yeah. No, that I cannot disagree with.
Okay.
But it's like convenient amnesia that a lot of people seem to be having now, that a lot of this stuff wasn't happening beforehand. Now, has it been to this level? Most definitely not. This is it's evolution. It's most definitely evolution. And Deion Sanders is most definitely one of those that can create that type of change, right? But to say that, he was the one to do it, no, but he was the first to put it on that level. Most definitely. I am not, going to disagree with that at all. And I know there are a lot of people like, D-Man, stop being a semantics man and over there pulling hairs over there on which one. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that at all. No, because of course, everywhere you saw Prime over the past 2.5 years, you saw him with Jackson State stuff on, most definitely, and everyone knew what that was easily. Yeah,
and I don't have the number, the exact dollar amount from like apparel sponsorships, if you will, from Under Armour. But I think, did you say last week that Jackson State was one of maybe a handful, if not one of a small handful of schools on the FCS and FBS and Power 5 level that had like several, like the amount of different jersey combinations and helmet combinations.
Oh, the uniform combinations, they were second to Oregon.
There you go.
And we know why Oregon is number one.
Yeah, because that's Phil Knight's alma mater, Nike land. So of course they're going to get the cherry, but yeah, I mean, have we seen that let alone an HBCU, a well-known apparel brand? This ain't British Knights, right? This is freaking Under Armour. doing this. He came.
Yeah.
They had video of him of Plank, Kevin Plank. That's the name, the CEO and founder of Under Armour. They had him on campus. Show a video of him on campus talking to the football team.
Yeah.
And just not giving up, but just showing the different jerseys and the shoes, the gear. That does not happen without Coach Prime.
It doesn't. No.
I mean, it just doesn't. So I agree with you on this. I wish the train would last a lot longer. The train would last a lot longer than it did, because you figure Prime was going to have his pick of the litter of Power 5 like opportunities.
Most definitely.
Yeah, that's my only gripe. Not really gripe, but that was my only thing I could wish for, was to see this journey going just a bit long. Because I would have loved to see him disrupt college football on the FBS level and the Power 5 and the Power 5 in the FBS. I would have loved to see him disrupt a lot of those big programs. I would have loved to see Skip Bayless, to this point, just credit said this. I would have loved to see him cut a deal with and I'm probably mentioned this last week, with the head coach at Ole Miss.
With Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin. I would love to see him cut a deal with Lane Kiffin to say, we don't have to have a home and home. We'll go to you every year or whatever, and just kick his ass. I would love to see him cut the same type of deal with Mississippi State and Mike Leach. And prayers up to Mike Leach. He's in the hospital after suffering a massive heart attack. So prayers up to him. But I would love to see him cut a deal with Mike Leach and say, hey, we'll play your Bulldogs down in Starkville. You only have to come up to Jackson and kick their ass. So I mean, I would have loved to see him do the same with Southern Miss, and maybe Troy University in Alabama. You know what I mean? Just the Sun Belt schools and whatnot, and of course the in-state SEC schools. Even though that may sound like a little bit fancy, but it's possible because he was getting that kind of athlete, just to be the ultimate disruptor.
Now, in order for that though to happen, Scott, that most definitely would have taken some time in order for him to go ahead and
at least 7-8 years.
Most definitely. Yeah, because he said numerous times, he was going to have to get the dogs in the trenches, the offensive lineman and the defensive lineman, in order for him to compete on that level. But the thing is, everyone loves to talk about the on-the-field product.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing that I'm concerned about, though, is the off-the-field stuff, especially as it pertains to the money. Right? And there were a lot of things that I wish he would have done. A lot of things he even spoke out on that I wish he would have kind of furthered the conversation on that probably most definitely would have addressed a lot of that stuff and a lot of those issues. Primarily, the amount of monies that the state institutions, the state HBCUs, are owed by their respective states.
Yes.
The problem is that the likes of the university presidents can't talk about that stuff because they are hired by that exact same state, right?
Right, the system.
But the coach can talk about it. Mm-hmm. And then when you have a guy like Deion Sanders that talks about something like that, E.F. Hutton, as soon as he say it, everybody else is going to start wondering, oh my God, what's going on with state HBCUs? And it just becomes this whole movement to help these institutions get the monies that they're owed, because a lot, the discrepancy between, I'm not even talking about HBCUs and FBS programs. When you talk about their counterparts on the FCS level and the amount of money that they get in terms of state funding and government funding versus the HBCUs, it's in the millions easily. And that's a lot of the reason why these HBCUs are pigeon-held. If they were to go ahead and have the same type of state funding, that would be wonderful, right? And then, of course, if they can go ahead and garner the media rights contracts, which, of course, the SWAC is already better than everyone else on the FCS level right now.
Right, yes,
you have that along with the state money. That will be extremely beneficial for these programs to go ahead and turn themselves around. But there are a lot of these broteps, a lot of these hoteps out here that are claiming or who believe that the reason why Deion was hired away from Colorado was because he was probably getting a little too close to that and felt as though that he needed to be pulled away from Jackson State before that happened.
Yeah, we won't talk about the whole tips, but and you mentioned the TV deals. I don't know how true this is, so please feel free to debunk and do so and not be shy about it. I mean, again, ESPN TV deal with SWAC is said to be $120 million over 10 years. I don't know how true that is.
That's not true at all, Scott.
Okay,
those numbers should sound extremely familiar.
Yeah.
10-year, $120 million. That is most definitely the Byron Allen HBCU Go contract number.
There you go.
Yes. So, so that's where that number comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. Again, short-term memory, or maybe Bama's just wasn't watching. Shame on you for not watching. But the relationship that ESPN has had with HBCUs goes back a period of time. Now, I don't know the exact date, but as far as I can go back off the top of my head, it's at least 2005 when ESPN used to do the weekly Thursday night games with HBCUs, and they would feature MEAC and SWAC programs on alternating weeks. And then it went from that one game a week to a Thursday and a Saturday to 2 games on Saturday where they would have the day game be the MEAC and the night game be the SWAC. And then it grew to a couple of games during the week. And then, of course, ESPN Plus and ESPN3 happened. And they started adding more and more games via streaming. And it's gotten to a point now with ESPN where they have multiple SEAC, MEAC, and SWAC games all on their family of networks. And this was all things that were set in motion years before Coach Prime got there.
Right.
For whatever reason, people tend to forget that just a few seasons ago, North Carolina A&T was that flavor of the month for ESPN, where they would get those prime Thursday games, where they would get those prime Saturday games, when A&T would have like 2, 3, and maybe even 4 night games during the season because they were the it school. It's not new that Jackson State is doing the same thing because they are the it school. Right. So that's why when people are like, yeah, we get it. Yeah, I get it. It's your time. We'll see how many, primetime games you get this upcoming season. But the thing is, it happens in seasons for the team that people want to watch. We'll have to figure out who that school is going to be. Maybe it'll be Florida A&M. Maybe it'll be Southern next year. Chances are it'll be someone within the SWAC. But yeah, like I said, it rotates, or it has been rotating if you pay attention. But yeah, this thing, like I said before, it is not new. This ESPN deal is not new. And like I've said on this show years before, but I'm going to go ahead and repeat it again because I'm name dropping here. Yeah, John Skipper, I had a conversation with Skipper back in 2016, the former president of ESPN, about the advancement of HBCU athletics on his family of networks. This was before streaming really started popping off and becoming a thing, where he wanted to expand the amount of games that they were broadcasting and wanted to do so with all 4 HBCU conferences. But of course, for whatever reason, all 4 didn't buy in. They have their reasons. I'm not going to begrudge them or fully credit them for doing so. But again, that HBCU Go deal has most definitely been beneficial to the SWAC. The relationship that the CIAA also has with HBCU Go and with Bounce TV has most definitely been beneficial for them as well. And it'll reap more benefits with the basketball season that's ongoing right now, when you start to have more broadcasts there too. So yeah, all of this stuff has been going on outside of Deion Sanders. And then of course that HBCU Go football agreement, there were no Jackson State games on HBCU Go. So that's something else we do think about as well. But yeah, that 12-10, that was HBCU Go and Byron Allen, not ESPN.
All right, man, let's close out this Coach Prime summary of this. We're going to probably talk more about this next week. But there's some, I want you to, you were gonna teach some things last week, and I heard probably a lot to say. There's been some undercurrents in what may have led to his departure behind the scenes. I want you to go into that right quick so you can close this segment on this show tonight on Dion Sanders.
Yeah, so there was a report that was bubbling. It started to come out that Sunday before we did our show last week. And I kind of touched on it, but I know that we went over in time, so we didn't have enough time to really talk about it then. But since then, it's most definitely started to flood out, and it came along with the information that you just talked about in terms of a lot of the things that that kind of soiled the relationship between Coach Prime, the president there at Jackson State, and of course the athletics director, Ashley Robinson, also at Jackson State. Seemed to be some sort of lack of unity that was going on there between those three entities. But these are some of the claims that came from out of Coach Sanders' camp. None of the Celebration Bowl money went to the football team. They were not holding JSU employees accountable for doing their jobs. Now, if you paid attention to the 60 Minutes piece that he did, he talked about how, the landscapers were supposed to mow the lawn once a week, every Thursday. He said, sometimes it wouldn't be done. And he would be out there mowing the lawn because he wanted things done a certain way. And so that was him kind of hinting that, hey, I'm going to need y'all to do what y'all supposed to do so that I can do what I need to do. And I don't have to worry about this. All I have to do is worry about football.
Right.
And I get that, and I don't begrudge him for that too. Hey, do your damn job. Right. And if it was something as little as cutting the grass, what bigger things weren't being done by the staffers at Jackson State that probably was getting under his skin? Another topic matter that came up: ticket sales money went missing. He basically signed an agreement with his contract that said that when ticket sales went over 30,000 for a stadium that seats over 60,000, that he would get he would get 10% of the game day ticket sales revenue. He claimed that he didn't receive that money since the spring 2021 season. And then there was also conversations that the university president was undercutting the deals that Sanders established, and that as a last-ditch effort to try to keep Sanders at Jackson State after he had already been offered several opportunities to go elsewhere, that JSU decided to offer him $1 million to get him to stay.
That wasn't going to keep him there, because $1 million compared to what we know of at Colorado, at the University of Colorado, what, $5 million?
Yes.
That doesn't compute. The math ain't math.
No, it's not. It's not. Now, the thing is all of this true? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I just find it to be a little messy, but a lot of times that's how divorces are, right? It's a little messy.
I agree.
And, it seems as though that there are a lot of people, and another reason why people feelings are hurt, who feel as though that he used HBCUs to get the job at Colorado. Like we talked about before, he interviewed with the likes of Arkansas and Florida State. They told him that, he interviewed well, but they didn't feel as though that he was qualified enough. But at the same time, he didn't have his collegiate degree, and you need your degree in order to be a head coach. So what did he do? He went to Tougaloo and HBCU to get his degree so he could ultimately get a job. And the only place that was offering him a job at the time was
Jackson
another
State.
HBCU, Jackson State.
Yep.
Now, in order for him to at least get an opportunity elsewhere, he was going to have to prove himself at Jackson State. So he did, and that's why he ended up moving up to Colorado. And that's why a lot of people believe that he used HBCUs on that path.
Sure.
I will in turn flip it around and say, well, Jackson State used him for exposure too.
Of course they did. Look how much exposure they got. They had freaking ESPN College Game Day built by the Home Depot at Jackson State.
Yeah.
Well, not technically on campus because the state football stadium is not on campus, but still, they were at a SWAC event with a lot of people there, celebrities coming to the locker room, Snoop Dogg to name one of many. That doesn't happen without Coach Prime, yo.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Well, I'll say it rarely happens without Coach Prime because I don't want to talk about the school in Greensboro that's been doing it with the likes of Sam Washington and Rob Broadway but it's not about A&T right now. We're talking about Jackson State and Deion Sanders. So, I knew it was a troubled marriage from the get-go, that both sides would be using each other. The question is who used who more. I'll let people debate that. I have my feelings on who used who more, but the thing is, both parties were used, but Jackson State was the dumpy in this instance, and that's why they're the scorned lover. So I get it. I understand it, but my God, to call this dude a sellout is a little egregious, but I understand why you're upset.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Well said, brother. Well said. We'll close the show out on this, man. I want to give a quick shout. I'll be remiss if I didn't give a quick shout out to Brittany Griner for being brought home where she belongs. Right.
Most definitely.
I mean, what, 9 or 10 months being away for that amount of period of time for what was done. We all knew it was a political stunt by one Vladimir Putin, president of Russia. But even though months later she was brought home due to exchange, a reluctant exchange for convicted arms dealer Victor Bout. We served 10 years out of 25-year federal prison sentence in the United States. I know they want to bring Paul Whelan home as well, who's I think he was a diplomat. He was arrested for espionage in Moscow in 2018. Even though they're still working on that, and the family for the Paul Whelan family, props to them for saying, "Hey, look, we're not mad at Griner being able to come home. We just keep hope alive, so to speak." So they're happy for her, and I'm glad that the family put that statement out. I'm just glad. I just hope that she's okay, mentally, because we all know what the type of hell she went through. But the bigger part of this, to me, is the lack of, outside of the WNBA and the fans and her fans and everything else, and mostly Black sports journalists. I'm more upset at the school that she made great, Baylor University, and I'm more upset at that woman who used to coach her at Baylor, who used Brittany Griner's talents to garner an undefeated season, at least one national championship, and a big-ass contract at LSU. The name escapes me right now, and I know it's on the tip of my tongue, but I talked about it earlier, like during the weekend. That's where my disgust lies. Because when someone asks her about Brittany Griner, like, paraphrase, and the reporter asked her, "Do you have anything to say about Brittany? Do you have any statements? I know you want to give a statement about Brittany Griner, if you want to or not." And she said, and I quote, "And you won't. You will not get a response from me." How bit of messed up is that? And I want to say something harsh, but I want to get this show monetized. So how messed up is that?
Yeah.
That's what we talked about in past podcasts. You see what they really think of you?
Yeah.
You see what they really, 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 really think of you? And because, and I won't belabor the point, but basically one of the things that this coach did, Malky, was that Coach Malky was that she lied to Brittany Griner when Brittany Griner said, because she was out as a gay woman before she went to college. She's like, "Will me being LGBTQ," and I'm paraphrasing, "me being gay be a problem?" Reportedly, the coach lied to her and said no, when in fact it was a problem for her. And while she was at Baylor, when she was getting pushed back by people in the university or whatever, she did little. Coach Malky did little to defend her. And they're strained to this day. And it's probably going to be even more strained to the point of being beyond repair given that what Coach Malky said in response when Brittany Griner is still detained in Russia, in jail in Russia, but she's back home now. And I hope that she gets the help that she needs. Apparently that she talked to people on the plane on the flight back, you know, and like platform and hooping right now in the like as far as like I don't want to say rehabilitation or whatever, but still, I'm happy that Brittany Griner is home. I'm happy that people in the WNBA were calling for her release. I was happy. I'm still happy about the Black sports journalists, mostly Black sports journalists, who called on President Biden to do something to bring her home. And I'm just glad that this whole deal is on. Now, whether she recovers from this, how long it will take her to mentally recover, that's another story. I just wish the best for her wife, and her family.
Agreed. But Scott, before we go, I have to say this. I almost completely forgot about this. Earlier today, I was listening to a radio station, to a radio program. I'm not going to say the name of the program because I don't want to make any bald-headed people upset.
Sure.
But there was a statement made on the show about why is it that HBCUs are out here asking celebrities for money. You should already know that HBCUs are in a particular plight, which is why they are looking for funding and looking for as much help as they possibly can.
Right.
Now, I know there are some celebrities that are willing. Shout out to Charles Barkley that just donated another $1 million to HBCUs this past week. Yeah.
Thank you, Charles Barkley.
And to the the Durant Foundation, which is, of course, led by Kevin Durant and his mom, that just gave $500,000 to Bowie State's athletics department as well. But I know it's not for all celebrities to go ahead and do so financially, right?
Sure.
Because I know you don't want to get in nobody's pocket.
Right.
But I'll say this, the same thing that I normally say to HBCU alums and fans alike. There's a way for you to give back without necessarily giving back of your dollars. And I understand that time is also money to some people. But hey, if you're willing to give up your time and your knowledge to help out HBCUs so that they can advance themselves, especially from my perspective for the athletics departments, where if you can go in, celebrities, and share your knowledge on how you get sponsorship deals so that they can get improved ones for their programs. Talk about how a lot of the atrocities that are happening, like I said before, about the states not giving up the monies to the institutions that they need to. If they can be that conduit of vocalizing that message to the public, because again, as much as the media says it, people will listen.
Right.
But you know, it won't be in mass. But if you get a celebrity to say it, especially ones that'll in the same breath say that they love HBCUs or respect what HBCUs are doing, and all you have to do is say, hey, state of Mississippi, go ahead, give up the money that you're supposed to give to Alcorn State, Mississippi Valley State, and the Jackson State and the other HBCUs within the state. Hey, state of Tennessee, stop fronting on Tennessee State, give them their dough. And the same thing for state of Ohio. Well, I don't know if Ohio owes them, but North Carolina, your state institutions that you owe money to, give them their money.
A&T and Central, yes, especially.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. So when you start to give up yourself in ways that doesn't take a lot for you to do, that will be of great benefit to HBCUs that doesn't necessarily always have to be fiscal. So those are ways for you to go ahead and help out that way. If you need other ways, you can always reach me on my social media handles. That's at the Yard HBCU on all social media. And I'll most definitely give you ways in which you can give back without having to give back an actual dollar. I'm here to help out players, most definitely.
And remember and I'll say this one thing I said in the coach show, to your point. Remember when the governor of Mississippi came down to Jackson Well, he is in Jackson, obviously, this capital of Mississippi, but came to campus and talked, had a joint press conference with Deion about Deion, like about wanting to build a new stadium and things, trying to keep him in the state.
Yeah.
That's an impact. That's to your point. He's like, okay, what's up with the water? What's up, all this. Notice how quick the governor of Mississippi came.
Oh, that's the other thing too, right? So I'm not going to completely
quickly,
lay all of this on Deion, though, because, of course, the news media did a wonderful job of putting it out there. But that water issue has been a water issue for some time now.
Right.
From what I'm hearing, at least 30 years. But now they're just starting to listen.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not putting that all on Prime. I'm going to put a little bit on Prime. But, yeah, and the state of Mississippi most definitely owes a debt of gratitude to those that most definitely helped out in that situation. But yeah, there were a lot of people that listened to it that probably wouldn't have listened to it before because of Coach Sanders.
Where can they find you on Twitter and other means of social media? So
you can find me at The Yard HBCU, all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And you most definitely want to do so this week, because if you didn't know, this is Celebration Bowl week where Jackson State will be facing off against North Carolina Central. I know that, Deion has moved on to Colorado, but there is still a football game that will be played that he will still be coaching in. And I will be heading to Atlanta in a few days to cover said game. And I most definitely will be doing live spots on Instagram with the media access that I'll have, along with access to practices, and of course giving a preview or pregame that Saturday morning as well. So yeah, most definitely follow me on social media if you want access from my perspective on this year's Celebration Bowl.
And also, please see to check them out. I mentioned the links before, theyarhbcu.com, on this backdrop, herosports.com. Those links will be in the description under this video. So you have no excuse not to check them out, and it's great work. And also, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe. You'll be glad you did. I'll be glad you did. Check out www.theclowntimes.net and get the merch at kevinpress.com. Search for the Clown Times Sports. Again, those links, along with his links, are underneath this description, like on YouTube, underneath this video. So thank y'all for tuning into this podcast. Take care. Keep hope alive, all the good stuff, and stay warm. It's going to be a cold one this week. Take care. Peace out.